Hello, everyone. I am here today with Jenny Clark. She is the person in charge of the Disability Resource Center at Eastern Michigan University. She joins me today just to discuss her experience with students with autism. Thank you very much for coming on today, Jenny.
Oh, you're welcome. Actually, I'm not in charge of the Disability Resource Center. I coordinate the CATE Lab, the Center for Adaptive Technology Education, which falls under the Disability Resource Center.
I see. Okay.
Yeah, Dr. Lamarcus Howard is the director of the Disability Resource Center.
Okay. My apologies for that.
Oh, no problem. Just didn't want to confuse people.
Yeah. So for the viewers watching, could you tell me a little bit about what exactly the DRC, more specifically the CATE Lab, is and what they provide?
Sure. The Disability Resource Center, DRC, works collaboratively with students, staff, and faculty to achieve an accessible environment. And so students with disabilities contact the DRC and meet with the case manager. And our current case managers are Stephanie Peck and Heather Ortel. And they meet with students via Zoom, which has been quite useful and well accepted. They work with students and through an interactive process with the student determine what accommodations the student will need in courses. And from that, they write a letter of accommodation, which a student can then choose which professors to give the letter of accommodation to. And some of the typical accommodations may be extended time on exams, testing in a different location, ability to leave the classroom for short breaks, having discussion questions emailed to the student ahead of time, which is useful, especially for group work and things like that. Another popular thing that we have been using since the pandemic is Glean Software, which the student can use in-person classes and online classes. And it's a note-taking software where the lecture is recorded and the student can either type very brief notes, such as if they're attending a lecture on the planets and they're talking about Mars, the student could type the word Mars in his notes. Then they go on to talk about Jupiter, and he could type Jupiter. Later, when he reviews the notes and clicks on the word Mars, it will bring up that portion of the lecture.
Okay, wow, that's really interesting.
Yeah, it also will then, after the lecture is over, you can have those notes transcribed into print too.
Okay.
So people have been very pleased with that. And then the CATE Lab, we provide adaptive technology services to students registered with the Disability Resource Center, which may be getting them hooked up with software such as I mentioned, or they can use specific adaptive technology devices such as closed circuit TVs that enlarge the print, that sort of thing. And that's very individualized according to the student's needs. We also, and this is very popular, provide an alternate testing location for students.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, so students who choose not to test in the classroom can make an appointment at the CATE Lab and test in either individual private rooms or in the main lab and receive their extended time. I'll also note that the extended testing time and the testing accommodations also transfer over to online exams.
I see.
So, and that's a very, very popular accommodation. And some of the other, excuse me, accommodations that we provide are hooking people up with specific resources on campus as the need arises. They may have dietary concerns, and then we're going to put them in touch with the nutrition department, things like that.
Definitely. Yeah. What percentage of students you have met with are diagnosed with autism?
I'd say right about now, that would be 10% of the students.
You said 10%?
Yes, it currently.
Okay, absolutely. Was the DRC at Eastern created before or after the Americans with Disabilities Act?
EMU provided accommodations to both students with disabilities and employees with disabilities prior to the ADA in 1990.
Okay.
However, the students with disabilities accommodations were provided through the Dean of Students office, which it was typical of most universities at that time. The Dean of Students handled students with disabilities. They handled student conduct and a variety of services that now have their own office.
I see.
So
Mhm.
it expanded obviously into separate offices shortly after the ADA. And it's typical of most campuses. And the other typical thing that happened is the percentage of students with disabilities not only increased over time, but also those disabilities changed in terms of,
Absolutely.
in terms of what you saw. Yeah.
Yeah, and I know one of the advantages of the ADA is more accessible resources to professional diagnosis. So it definitely makes sense that the disabilities professionally diagnosed would increase, which is really good because it's so important to get that help, especially if you were struggling before and you were unaware. So.
Exactly. The broader diagnostic criteria, especially for autism,
Yes.
helped greatly because it made it easier for people to get the help that they needed, and included people with high intelligence where prior it did not.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So fourth question here, why did you choose to take this very noble and important job?
I was raised with people with a variety of disabilities. My mother was born missing one arm and legally blind. She developed grand mal epilepsy when I was 6 and a brain tumor when I was 12. I also was in a school district where it was ahead of its time. They did a lot of mainstreaming. And so I had a lot of classmates who had disabilities such as dyslexia, visual impairments, things like that. I believe I read my first test aloud to a student with dyslexia when I was 7 years old.
Oh, okay. Yeah, definitely.
And then I went on, my undergrad degree is from Eastern, and it's in special ed of the blind. And then my master's also from Eastern is in interdisciplinary technology.
Okay. Well, that's certainly good that you got that experience early on, because I I definitely do understand that the more diversity and inclusion you're exposed to, that tends to play out and generally just like how you are as a person, and also what you choose your career to be. So that's very good that you had that early experience.
It was wonderful. It really was.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What have you learned about autism through all the students you've seen over the years?
That a no to I don't want to say no two people, but no two set of needs is identical.
Totally. Yes.
Yeah. And that it's important to communicate with the individual person and determine what accommodations they may need in a specific setting. Because of course, as you know, the setting is everything.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. But I've been very impressed over the years with the work ethic, the
Yes.
attention to detail, the diversity of careers that people with autism pursue is very interesting.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm definitely with you on the work ethic there. I think it's definitely not like the reason why college is a struggle for most statistics, including myself, is due to the social aspects of it. Like it has nothing to do with the difficulty or the amount of schoolwork. It's which just goes to show like it's definitely not an intelligence problem.
Oh
So
no.
it's good that you've been able to experience that. Yeah. Um, why do these very necessary services end in college and not continue into the professional world?
Well, I believe that there should be more federally funded programs to assist individuals excuse me, with transition to the world of work, whether that be straight from high school or after a person has earned a degree. And in some cases, it may be help in finding a job, it may be help interview, that sort of thing. There are some programs that are starting up in various states that do assist individuals at the, with those steps. And there's also many companies now that are actively seeking out employees with autism. And
Yes.
that is wonderful. Some of the best practices that they're using in those companies is and educating the rest of the employees about all the wonderful things that that skill set, those thought patterns can bring to the job. And then other companies are doing a mentor program where they have employees that they've hired and they've been on board for a while. And these individuals have autism and they're mentoring the newbies that come in. And so there are really good practices developing. You know, and that the accommodations aren't expensive in any way, shape, or form, and quite easy to implement in many cases. For example, just relocating that individual's desk to a quieter location.
Right. Yeah. And I've definitely been so impressed with the improvement, especially in the workforce, because I didn't see any of this like even 10 years ago.
No.
And we've made very quick strides with accommodations. And
Yes.
what I've realized about disabilities, especially disabilities as dynamic as autism, is you just keep learning more and more and figuring out more and more ways to support us. And I think in 50 years we're gonna discover so much that you would have thought that in the 2020s we were ableist, just because of like how much is new and just like how much more they're going to be doing in 50 years. So I'm definitely looking forward to every year that goes by that we just learn more and more. And I know since I was diagnosed, the diagnosis rate has increased 3 times,
Yep.
which has just been so helpful with finding a community with all that support. And it's it's been amazing, and I know will continue to be amazing.
And since you are out there and involved in educating the public about it too, that helps greatly.
Yeah, I mean, it's crazy just how many autism related YouTube channels are out there. And the YouTube channels, websites, Instagrams, and I think, I mean, every YouTuber says the same thing, and I'm gonna say it too. Like if just one person can be positively impacted from my statements, then everything's worth it. So
yeah, I think it's important for parents of young kids to see too.
yes, which is probably the reason why I'm gonna be a teacher. Just to like meet with the parents and like share my story and share my advice. So I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah, that'll be very worthwhile.
Final question here. What is the main message that you give to students with disabilities entering college who are nervous about their future?
The main message would be get in touch with the Disability Resource Center or whatever the office is called on their particular campus. And I would speak with them early on instead of waiting until a problem develops and becomes overwhelming or you fall behind.
Right. All right. Well, those are all the questions I have for you, Jenny. Thank you very much for coming on. Do you have anything else to add?
No, excuse me. I can email you some links about different companies that are not only actively hiring employees with autism, but also have some best practices in place.
Well, I'm looking forward to those links, and I can definitely post them on the video, so other autistic adults looking for employment would be able to see that.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Have a wonderful day.
You too.